The Forgotten Depths. The fortress moons of Tierx had been carved into the stone of forgotten stars, where broken weapons were left to fade and no songs followed. In the deepest pit of its coldest moon, surrounded by forgotten alarms and locked archives, the dragon slept, not from fatigue, but from something crueler, neglect, starvation, despair so deep it had become ritual. The alien war dragon known as Varnex, the beast that once turned entire armadas to vapor, lay like a withered statue. His ribs were sharpened from years of not eating, his throat too dry to roar, and his eyes stared past the dark as though still waiting for something that would never come. No one visited the lower sectors anymore. The guards above believed Varnex dead long ago, a myth stashed away in chains that no one bothered to check. The creature had become nothing more than a ghost story whispered in the corridors above, a reminder of wars better left forgotten. But one night, through a maze of old coolant tunnels and scavenger paths, came a strange sound that echoed between the support beams, the whirring of tools and a boy's humming. Dex didn't know the rumors. He was just a human mechanic, 17 years old, assigned to the waste system after wrecking a plasma loader during his lunch break. He was supposed to be rewiring the backup coolant valves when his scanner glitched. Every direction registered as a heat anomaly, but his fingers felt only the metal chill of machinery long forgotten. Curious, maybe reckless, he followed the anomaly down a shaft without light, crawling past bone-dry spider wires and old warning signs written in 5 different languages. The deeper he went, the more the air seemed to thicken with something he couldn't name. And then he found it. Not a monster, but a mountain of silent grief. Eyes that had cried themselves empty. The dragon was curled like a creature not in slumber, but in mourning. Its scales were cracked white, its once majestic wings folded in like broken sails. Around its neck bore a collar lined with old acid burns, but the most haunting part was its eyes, open, unblinking, dry as if they had cried themselves empty. Dex didn't run. He stood there for a long time, even as the dragon made no move to breathe or shift. He could feel something alive in that silence, something pressed down but not gone, something like a story waiting for the right voice to speak to it. Slowly, Dex stepped closer, not with bravery but with the compassion of someone who understood what it meant to be ignored. The dragon didn't flinch when Dex approached. It didn't threaten, didn't breathe fire, didn't even acknowledge his presence. But Dex, curious and concerned, circled the perimeter slowly, observing not a cage but what looked like a vigil. Dozens of broken food dispensers lined the chamber, untouched around the edges. Old data screens played corrupted footage over and over, the same short clip of battle, distorted and colorless, showing the dragon diving through space toward something, someone. In the dragon's claws in the footage hung a collar, not metal like the one around its neck now, but older, ceremonial, etched with glyphs Dex couldn't translate. Beneath the screen was a plaque, long buried in dust, that read simply in an ancient dialect, "Beloved Mount of Rhea Kale, bonded in flame." The name struck something deep. Dex had read it once in a forgotten engineer's journal from the final war. But Rhea Kale was listed as Kia, killed in action, no remains recovered, no distress beacon ever answered. Without thinking, Dex stepped closer and whispered her name aloud. The dragon's nostrils quivered. The weight of ancient grief. The dragon's entire body didn't move, but something ancient inside its chest stuttered. One eye, bloodshot and hollow, flicked toward him, not aggressively, but with something that looked impossibly like hope. That was when Dex understood. The dragon wasn't dying because of poison or age or injury. It was dying of heartbreak. In the silence that followed, Dex felt his own breath hitch. He had come here to fix a coolant valve, but now he knew he would have to fix something much more impossible, a forgotten bond stretched across stars, severed by war and left to rot beneath silence and stone. Dex didn't sleep that night. He returned to the upper quarters in a daze, haunted by the hollow depth in the dragon's gaze. When the other mechanics laughed about coolant leaks and reactor grease, he stared at his palms, still stained with ash from the dragon's resting pit. Varnex hadn't attacked, hadn't growled or bared teeth, but the silence was heavier than any war story Dex had ever heard. He broke into the records chamber that night. Old files buried behind obsolete encryption revealed a classified mission titled Ashfall Protocol. Rhea Kale, the pilot of the war dragon Varnex, had gone missing during the final defense of Threxian Prime. The last transmission showed her ship critically damaged, life support failing, but she had refused evacuation orders. "I won't leave him," the crackling voice recording said. "Varnex and I, we go together or not at all." The transmission cut to static. Both pilot and dragon were presumed dead when Threxian Prime fell 3 days later. But somehow, Varnex had survived, had been captured, chained, and forgotten in the depths of this prison moon, waiting for a rider who would never return. For 5 years, he had waited. For 5 years, he had refused every meal, every attempt at care, slowly withering away in his grief. But Dex had an idea, a desperate, impossible idea. A voice from the past. The next night, Dex returned to the depths, but this time he brought something with him, a small audio device he'd salvaged from the archives. His hands shook as he approached the motionless dragon, whose eyes tracked his movement with that same hollow hope. "I found something," Dex whispered, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "I found her last message." He set the device down and pressed play. The chamber filled with static, then a voice, warm, determined, crackling through decades of corrupted data. "Varnex, my beautiful boy, if you can hear this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I can't come home to you. The ship is breaking apart, and I won't make it back, but I need you to know, you were the best part of my life. You were my partner, my friend, my family." The dragon's massive head lifted for the first time in years, ears twitching toward the sound. "I need you to live, Varnex. I need you to eat, to fly again, to find someone new to trust. You have so much love to give, and the universe needs creatures like you, noble, loyal, brave. Don't let them chain you down. Don't let them make you forget who you are." Tears were streaming down Dex's face as the recording continued. "Find someone who sees your worth, who appreciates your heart. And when you do, love them the way you loved me. Completely. Without reservation. That's my last order, my dearest friend. That's how you honor our bond, by making a new one." The recording dissolved into static, and the chamber fell silent except for a sound Dex had never heard before, a low, keening wail that seemed to come from the very depths of the dragon's soul. It was the sound of 5 years of grief finally finding its voice. Varnex's great head lowered until it rested near Dex's feet, and for the first time since his capture, the dragon closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were no longer empty. They were looking at Dex with recognition, with gratitude, with the first spark of something that might become trust. New bonds. In the days that followed, Dex began bringing food, real food, not the processed rations from the broken dispensers. He smuggled fresh meat from the upper kitchens, knowing he'd face punishment if caught, but unable to bear the thought of Varnex wasting away. At first, the dragon wouldn't eat, but gradually, as Dex sat with him day after day, talking about his work, his dreams, his fears, Varnex began to take small bites. Each meal was a victory, each day a step back from the edge of despair. Dex learned that dragons could understand human speech far better than anyone realized. He told Varnex about Earth, about the stars he'd seen, about his hope to one day explore the galaxy as an engineer on a deep space vessel. And slowly, impossibly, the dragon began to respond, not with words, but with gentle rumbles, with the slight movement of his great head, with eyes that grew brighter each day. The collar around Varnex's neck had been designed to suppress his fire and limit his movement, but it had grown loose as he wasted away. One evening, as Dex worked to repair a damaged food dispenser, he heard a sharp crack. The collar had finally broken, falling to the chamber floor in pieces. For a moment, both human and dragon stared at the broken shackles. Then Varnex stood, truly stood, for the first time in years. His wings, though scarred and stiff, spread wide, and a soft, golden glow emanated from his throat. Not fire, but warmth. Life returning to something that had been dying. "You're free," Dex whispered, stepping back to give the magnificent creature room. But Varnex didn't fly away. Instead, he lowered his great head until it touched Dex's shoulder, a gesture of trust, of gratitude, of a bond being offered freely rather than forced by chains. 3 months later, when the prison transport arrived to transfer Dex to another facility, they found his quarters empty. The security footage showed him entering the lower levels the night before, but he never emerged. In the depths, however, the broken collar lay forgotten on the chamber floor, and both the dragon and the young mechanic were gone, vanished through a breach in the outer hull that had been carefully, precisely melted through. Among the stars, on the outer rim where salvage crews reported strange sightings, there were rumors of a golden dragon with a human rider. They said the pair helped stranded travelers, rescued crews from failing ships, and brought supplies to colonies on the edge of civilization. Some called them ghosts. Others called them guardians. But those who had been saved by them knew the truth, that love, once thought lost, could be found again. That bonds forged in fire could be rekindled in friendship. And that sometimes, the most unlikely partnerships could heal wounds that time alone could never touch. Dex had gone looking for a coolant leak and found something infinitely more valuable, a friend who would fly with him to the edges of a universe and back, carrying the memory of those they'd loved while building something new and beautiful from the ashes of the past. The end.